This video was sponsored by the Great Courses Plus. It's a service where you have instantaneous access to lectures by top professors. One of these lectures inspired the creation of this video, so stay tuned till the end to find out more. Everyone likes a good underdog story. In the middle of World War II, before the Nazis invaded Russia, Russia invaded Finland. The Finns, against all odds, and at a shock to everyone, held their own against the largest army in the world. The Winter War, as it came to be called, would not be the easy victory that Stalin wanted. In fact, it'd be an historic embarrassment for the Soviets, even if they did win in the end. But what led to the Winter War? Why did Russia invade Finland in the first place? Well, as all stories that involve Stalin go, our tale begins with paranoia. Before Germany and Russia fought, they had a shaky, to say the least, alliance. Stalin knew this wouldn't last. A Nazi invasion was inevitable. The Russians saw enemies at all sides, even starting to believe the non-communist Finnish could somehow conspire with Hitler in the future. Finland was a wild card, even though it had no fascist tendencies whatsoever, but that didn't stop Russia from imagining the Finns allowing German troops to invade from their border. The Mecca of communism, the city of Leningrad, was ripe for the taking on the Finnish border. In Stalin's mind, a buffer was needed, so Russia gave Finland an offer. Give us 20 miles of your border, demilitarize it, and give us the islands next to your coast as well. Like any sovereign country, Finland said no. Pretty confident that the Finns would just surrender immediately, Stalin prepared his country to invade the tiny country. On November 26th, the first shots rang out. Within the day, the Russians announced Finland had attacked them, even though evidence showed otherwise, and the Red Army marched across the border. The Finns had prepared for months for such an attack. They had dug trenches along the border and were camouflaged in all-white uniforms. They barely had an air force and no armor to speak of, so they were entirely reliant on infantry. The brown Red Army uniform made the Russians stand out in the snow like the redcoats in America. Worst of all for Russia, the terrain forced them down only a few long roads. They were prime targets to guerrilla attacks. Finns were trained at a young age to ski and get around during the harsh winters. They used their speed to sabotage Russian tanks, even sticking logs in tracks or throwing gasoline bottles called Molotov Cocktails that were named after the Soviet foreign minister to burn the armor out. Using the roads to their advantage, the Finns would blow up trees and sabotage the long and winding Russian convoys throughout all of December. A week in, many realized the Finns were putting up a fighting chance, including the Soviets. For the average Russian soldier, morale was low. Competent Red Army commanders were purged years ago, replaced by incompetent party members. For them, the strategy was just overwhelming numbers. Entire divisions ran out into open fields, only to be mowed down by a few well-placed machine guns. In one case, they even crossed across frozen lakes, only to have the ice shot out beneath them, and whole divisions disappeared under the water. Conditions were so bad, there was a story when they did flank the Finns. The Russians saw the warm food the Finn cooks had left behind. Demoralized from the realization that Finland had it better, the Russians halted their advance just to eat. In some battles, the Soviets outnumbered Finland 5-1, but instead of pressing the advance, they would slowly be whittled down and eventually forced to retreat. Simo Häyhä, the White Death, gained infamy at the Battle of Kola, sniping 250 Soviets alone, stopping an entire assault. But that's a story for another time. The disorganization of the Russians didn't go unnoticed. Stalin was bewildered, and the West was just laughing at the Soviets. By January, the Red Army commander was replaced with a competent leader, Semyon Timoshenko. Refocusing their efforts, more divisions and armor was sent to Finland. By February, the Soviets began making overwhelming victories. The Finns had defended for 2 months, but supplies were running low. They simply were too small to fight any longer. By February, Finland officially surrendered and a ceasefire was declared. By the end, the Finns lost 11% of their territory, including Karelia. 500,000 Finns evacuated, never to return home. Even with the victory, the war was an egg on the Red Army's record. 160,000 Russians died compared to the 25,000 Finns. But to Russia, at least Leningrad was safe from a potential attack. A year later, Germany would invade Russia through Poland, the most likely spot. For the next 3 years, Leningrad, the center of communism, would be under siege, making the entire Winter War pointless in the long term. Keen strategy, Stalin. Good job. This is Cody of Knowledge Hub. This video was inspired by a lecture which was featured in the video service The Great Courses Plus, History of Russia, taught by Professor Mark Steinberg. Here he discusses the general history of Russia from its origins to the modern day. You can access this and many numerous courses through The Great Courses Plus. It's a subscription on-demand video learning service with over 8,000 video lectures taught by professors in basically every field. Topics like science, history, math, and even really specific and odd topics that continue to always be updated, like photography. Courses are sometimes even hosted by National Geographic and the Smithsonian. It removes the pressure of grades from college. All you have to do is just watch and listen. So if you ever want to learn more about the history of Russia, especially the Bolshevik Revolution, click on this link to get 1 month of unlimited access to courses and videos absolutely free. Just visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/knowledge. The link is provided in the description below. This is Cody of Knowledge Hub.